All right, great. And then Emma's gonna start off. We have some questions we want to go through just to make sure we cover it and keep it consistent amongst all the different people that we're talking to.
All right, to start
Alright.
off, do you guys want to like introduce each of yourselves so that we can get to know you a little bit?
Sure, we'd love to. I'm Cindy Shepard. I'm the Green Team Director for Faith in Place, and I'm based in Central Illinois. Been with Faith in Place for 10 years, and I'll turn to the other way to Greg.
Hi, I'm Greg Tischer, pronouns he, him. I'm the Development Director at Faith in Place. I've been with the organization since June of 2019, and I'm based in Chicago, but work through all three states that we work in as Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. I'll turn it over to Jaleesa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jaleesa Malden. I'm the Indiana Outreach Coordinator here. Pronouns are she, her. I have been with Faith in Place a little over a year now, almost a year and a half. So just a little while. And oh, yeah, I'm based out of Gary, Indiana, and I'm going to pass it to the other Hoosier in the meeting, Eric.
Good afternoon. I'm Eric Riddle. I'm based out of Columbus, Indiana. I am a development coordinator here at Faith in Place since February of this year, and I use he and him pronouns.
Perfect. If any of you can answer this question, but if you guys want to tell us a little bit about the history and purpose of your organization, that'd be great.
I'd love to do that one. Faith in Place is about 25 years old. Next year, we're going to be celebrating our anniversary, and our vision is to help people of faith be leaders in the environmental justice movement. So we work through Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. We've been in Illinois for the longest and just recently partnered with folks in Indiana and Wisconsin. Our model is to plant green teams, 3 to 5 members of a local house of worship, and to help them educate, connect, and advocate for environmental justice. So they might start by greening around their own house of worship, getting involved in the community issues, and then we want to help them become real advocates so that they can be leaders in achieving environmental justice.
Thank you. Could you guys talk a little bit about the impact that your organization has, and like who are the main constituents that you're serving? Like, what's the main group?
Yeah, so I'm going to just hop off of what Cindy was offering, starting out with the fact that our green teams are planted within houses of worship. So that means most of our constituents are communities of faith, members of houses of worship, and it's intergenerational. So we have about 5 programs within Faith in Place, which helps support all of our green teams pursue their passions. And that changes for each region, for each house of worship. And within those program areas, we work with youth and communities with our Eco Ambassadors program. And we work with houses of worship to change over from fossil fuel energies to renewable energy, help finding them grants and experts to partner with. And our constituents also are able to connect with one another within their communities and outside of their church doors. Some of our projects include starting community gardens, connecting to organizations that are out here to act within environmental policy, and learning about recent benefits within IRA funding, or even just learning about any incentives that are offered. But most of our work is connecting with members of houses of worship, and to connect with their communities as well, to broaden that reach outside of church doors. I don't want to keep going because I feel like you have some very precise questions that I should answer, but that's a general outlay of it.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit like about the structure of your organization, how it works?
Yes, we have the organization started out based in Chicago, and then realized that the reach could be expanded regionally. So We have about 10 staff members that are based in the Chicago area still. Development, outreach, our policy chief, our policy director lives in Chicago and then travels to Springfield during the legislative session. And there's Chicago's big, so there are a lot of outreach folks working with congregations there. We're really, we want to emphasize that we're a multi-faith organization. So we work with not only Christian churches, but also other houses of worship and other communities of faith. So, so we have regions. We have 7 regions, 5 in Illinois. So the suburbs have their own coordinator and regional programming. The Northern Illinois up by Waukegan and Lake County is another area. Southern Illinois, way down. It's a very big state. And I'm in Central Illinois. So we have that, and then we've expanded so that Jaleesa works in Northern Indiana, and we're hoping to staff out in Central and Southern Indiana in the near future, and that same sort of pattern in Wisconsin. We have a new outreach coordinator in Milwaukee. We have a policy person also in Wisconsin, and our multi-faith outreach coordinator also lives in Milwaukee. So we have staff kind of spread out. We all work remotely and try to keep in touch with the communities that we serve.
And I'd just like to add for the Indiana region, we have staff located out here. That's me in Northern Indiana, but we also have staff in Central Indiana. My work in Northern Indiana spreads from East Chicago all the way to Fort Wayne as well.
Great, thank you. Just real quick, I wanted to confirm too, Eric, I know originally you had said you were available from 1:30 to 2:15. Do you all have some time past 2:15 still to like 2:30?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We were thinking it was going to be 2 to 2:45.
Okay.
So we
Great.
blocked
Yeah,
45
there'll be some
minutes.
time at the end for you all. If you have other questions about our process, we can answer those too. Just sticking with the structure real quick, could you all kind of give us an idea of, so we have the green teams, those are volunteers, but could you give us a little bit more of an idea of like the board structure, board involvement throughout the organization as well?
We do have a board of directors that works with our president, CEO, and the chief operating officer. We just changed titles, so I stumbled over it a little bit. But that's kind of our executive group. We have an operations person who does budgeting and payroll and that kind of thing. Our development team, Greg and Eric, you've met 2/3 of the development team, which help us find grants and access the money to keep our projects moving forward. And the policy folks are kind of a group into themselves, one for each of our state regions, because most of the legislation that we're involved with happens at the state level. Okay, who am I missing?
Outreach.
Outreach is each regional person is an outreach person, and we have an outreach director who is sort of the outward facing. She speaks at a lot of big public events and is one of our public faces. I'm the green teams director. I'm the more internal person working with the green teams and the regional staff.
And if I could just add to that, Cindy,
Yes.
for the board structure. So our board members represent our communities, the communities that we serve and the communities we exist in. So we have a representation from Indiana, Wisconsin, as well as Illinois. Many of our board members are lifelong residents of environmental justice communities of color, that is low to moderate income, disadvantaged communities, rural and urban, that disproportionately suffer from environmental injustices, including polluted air, land, water, and the climate crisis. So we have our direction that we take from comes from our communities we serve. Each board member serves on a board subcommittee, including development, outreach and programs, communications, and a number of others, so that we bring in both the staff and the board to work together on those programs. We also in Indiana and Wisconsin have advisory councils. These happened when we expanded into Indiana and Wisconsin, which happened in 2022. We brought in those voices so that we have the voices of those new states that we're working in, so that we make sure that we incorporate that in or just not in an Illinois-based organization. So we really bring in the voices of who we serve to our board structure, and that governance happens at the level. Our board is 56% BIPOC, that is Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. Our board executive committee, which is 4 members, is 75% BIPOC. So we're really lean into representing our communities and representing a diversity of voices, faith, racial, cultural, ethnic. We do at the highest level of our board, as well as our staff and how we do our programs and outreach.
Thanks, Greg.
But one last thing I'll say, I am, fairly new to the organization here in my first year, and in early November, we all gathered as a staff in Chicago with the board and had a joint retreat between the board and staff, and had a full day with them. And a part of that was having all the board members help us with writing our end of year fundraising letters, adding notes to those letters, targeting people they knew, that sort of thing. So they're very active in that end of year campaign. And just having that one-on-one contact with them was, I thought, pretty special, and really showed their commitment. They were driving in from Wisconsin, Central Indiana, and just very involved in that way. I was very impressed.
Thanks. Good to hear. Go ahead, Emma.
Okay. Could you guys talk about your vision for the organization, or like the organization's vision, both short and long term?
The vision of the organization is to, our executive director puts it this way: when somebody walks into a new community, they say, who's really making things happen here for environmental justice? Who's moving racial justice forward here? And wants the answer to be back, these people of faith, it's people from that church. They've been working with food scarcity issues, and the synagogue over here has been involved with jobs programs. And so we're hoping, the vision is that people of faith could fulfill their potential as leaders in their community, and for justice and love of neighbor, actually. The practical side of that vision is it takes leadership and staff time to cultivate the relationships that can move us forward. And we've seen in Illinois how effective that can be. By listening to our communities and bringing their concerns to, for instance, the policy side, we were able to work with legislators and policymakers and get some really landmark legislation passed in terms of energy for the state of Illinois. We know that there are people of faith who have those same concerns in Wisconsin and Indiana. The Midwest, our 3 states are going to be crucial in addressing climate change and making a livable future for us. We produce 10% of the greenhouse gases in the United States, and the United States produces the vast majority of the greenhouse gases historically. So we really need to get this area of the country turned around. This is where we are. We say we're faith in place because this is the place where we are. And we feel like it's really important and exciting time to be doing this work in this area.
What would you guys say is the most exciting thing you guys are working on within your organization right now? Projects or just overall goals?
Jaleesa, you want to tell an exciting project?
Yeah, I have a few exciting projects. So upcoming early 2024, we have every year Renewable Energy Day at the State House in Indianapolis. We're trying to connect houses of worship as well as community groups and even high schools to show up and show their concern for their environmental protection and health and safety. And I know in the state of Indiana, it is very hard to get legislators on our side moving the front on getting renewable energy within legislation, equity, and what we call it energy democracy, and also representation for low-income communities and rural communities to both have that ability to really represent themselves in the environmental sector. So that's one of our projects. And then another is connecting with houses of worship throughout northern Indiana to start realizing our potential for addressing issues within food security, especially out here in Northwest Indiana. And as a resident of Gary, Indiana, there is a lot of potential for communities of faith to be an aid in that on that front. So I've had about 5 houses of worship contact me, even though I'm on vacation, about joining a coalition. And my goal is coming right off of vacation to connect with them and start building up what that image looks like using resources within Faith in Place. We have a department called Sustainable Food and Land Use that is fully staffed. And we have so many resources to help people figure out where to start when planting a garden and what resources are out there. And we have an amazing development team that can help with that. So being a bridge between those resources and helping communities speak to the concerns that they have is really what I'm excited about. And those 2 projects.
I'll just say something I'm excited about because we've been working on it for so long, and we just got the news last week that it's been approved as a community incubator kitchen in a church kitchen, right? We've just identified that there's a lot of kitchens that are not utilized that much, right? In churches that could be very large, and maybe it's just used once a week, right? And so we partnered with a church on the south side of Chicago and got a lot of new equipment in and made upgrades to get it certified by the city of Chicago, which is no small feat, right? There's a lot of safety laws and things that we had to meet. And we've had some stops and starts, and it's taken a couple of years, but we just got that approved. And so it's exciting that we'll be able to do a lot of like culinary entrepreneurship type work in the South Side to allow entrepreneurs to have access at a very, very low cost or no cost to start businesses. So that's the sort of thing that we can do very innovatively as a interfaith organization.
This is an exciting.
Go ahead, Cindy. You're good.
This is an exciting time of year for me because we have a Eco Ambassador Youth Program, which is targets young people, high school people from primarily environmental justice neighborhoods. They come together, they learn about what the issues are affecting their neighborhoods and affecting the community around them. Food scarcity and water, basement flooding is one of the things they talk about. But after they've spent 3 months kind of learning about the issues together with our youth empowerment coordinator, then they start doing their own projects. And at this time of year, then they're starting to think about presenting those projects, and they'll be doing those weekly after the first of the year. I'm really looking forward to hearing the kinds of things that they're interested in, excited about, and are taking action on already. We think youth are leaders, and we need to empower them and get behind them. They're gonna take it forward.
Great, thanks. Yeah, those are all very exciting. A follow-up question to, it kind of comes off of what Eric was explaining, but just in general with the green teams and all the different projects like this incubator kitchen, am I correct in the understanding that a lot of this is empowering the individuals at the churches to kind of lead those things? You give the assistance to help them do these things, even if it's the incubator kitchen or other things. Is that how it works most of the time? Okay, great.
There's
Thanks.
different degrees with different projects, and the incubator kitchen has taken a lot of staff expertise.
Right.
Our programs director, Ray Bell, has had to take a lot of leadership position there, but often we can connect them with the right people and they take the ball and run with it. I have a church here in Champaign that's just decided to do geothermal and solar
Wow.
combination project. I've never worked with one like that before, but I showed them who to talk to and kind of the questions to ask, and they took the ball, and the geothermal's in and the solar's on its way. So it's cool too.
Nice. It's no small feat to do all that. So that's good. Yeah, I was wondering from like a sustainability for each of these sites as they do these things, knowing that like it's good to have the people behind some of that too. So and then going back to the short term, long term, real quick. As far as long term, you all recently expanded and partnered with Indiana and Wisconsin. Is that kind of the area that in the near future and maybe the vision of the organization, thinking strategic planning, like is it your goal to really just dig in to get more with the faith communities in those states, or what is the vision for like a successful next 10 years or so look like?
We have a lot of work to do in Indiana and Wisconsin to bring them to parity with the Illinois work. And so I think that it may take us 10 years to do that. I have not heard any inklings that we're going to take over Michigan or anything like that. I think this is our area, and it's plenty challenging, and we'll be working on that for a while.
Well, one thing to know, we are part of a national interfaith power and light organization, right? And so there is a independent Michigan interfaith power and light, right? So we wouldn't really be
I do recall that
seeking
in your report now that you mentioned
to become like take over Michigan, right? In fact, in the process of this merger, there was discussions, and Michigan decided they wanted to stay independent, and we're happy to be part of the same affiliation network with them. And I've never been, but like Jaleesa was in Washington D.C. earlier this year and met a lot of the other IPL affiliate staff. And if you want to speak to that at all, Jaleesa, I think that was kind of exciting for you.
Oh my goodness, it was slightly overwhelming, but I learned that organizations like Faith in Place, who are affiliates of Interfaith Power and Light, have been running for many, many years. We're even Interfaith Power and Light even has locations in southern states like Alabama. There are some in California, and it just spreads out so widely. And all of our missions are very similar, connecting to communities of faith to get environmental work done. But yeah, that was my first time going, and I hope to see all of the amazing effort that they've made come to fruition in our next retreat.
Great. Eric, you sent on the 2022 annual report, so I have a little bit of sense of this already, but we wanted to hear about the organization's budget, how it's supported annually. I saw a lot of it. It looked like 70% is generally like foundation support, but could you talk about a little bit more of that portfolio of how you all support all the work that the organization's doing and what that looks like?
I'm going to defer to Greg just
Okay,
because he is the director of development.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah, you're correct. About 70% of our funding comes from private foundations. We are trying to increase the percentage that comes from other sources. We just recently received a approximately $2 million grant from the U.S. Forest Service. We will use this it's Inflation Reduction Act funding. We use this to support houses of worship and other community-based organizations and environmental justice communities. And they'll do tree equity planting, as well as forestry workforce projects. So that's an example of how we're getting more funding from the government source. We're in the midst of an end-of-year fundraising currently. So Eric and another development colleague, Michelle, they're making a lot of calls today. Giving Tuesday was just, just this week and so forth like that. But yeah, so it's mostly foundation grants. We budgeted for this year $25,000 from houses of worship, and we're getting close to that amount. Individuals is 260, I think is the number we put there, 260,000. But yeah, about 70% is foundations, and that's pretty much been the case since Faith in Place has been started. When it was founded, it was a fiscally sponsored by another organization, and they started out as grants, and we've kept that the thing, kept that sort of that's the direction. It used to be about 95% the funding came from grants, and now or foundation grants rather. Now we've increased our budget obviously, but we've decreased the percentage from it. But yeah, so there's a lot of that involved.
And most of that goes back towards the programming expense, correct? That's what it looked like on the report.
Yeah, I mean, it's program on the report, meaning program, it means outreach staff.
Supporting, yeah, okay.
Yeah, outreach staff. We have a division in our staff between outreach and programs, but it's essentially the same thing of empowering and supporting the communities we serve. So yeah.
Great, thank you. I think
one other thing I'll say,
ahead.
Greg mentioned the USDA Forest Service $2 million grant we received. That's a 5-year grant, and 80% of that 2 million will be regranted. So we've actually upped our administrative team to help with regranting those out to all those communities, right? We won't see those dollars. We do have 20% to help support our outreach coordinators in working in their communities to have 65 to 85 projects. But we really are, seeing ourselves as an opportunity to help houses of worship have access to these funds, the federal funds, that sort of thing. And this USDA grant was really a really good step forward in that direction.
Before Emma has the next question, just I don't know, I think this has probably been shared with you, but if you, I don't remember if this group has been part of the WRC fundraising process in the past at all. We did shift, we used to do more project-based fundraising. This year, they're really just focusing on showing that we trust an organization, and advocating and raising general support. So whatever group is decided, it'll be raising fundraising general support to help support that organization, and that organization can do what they want. That's why some of the questions are a little more particular, just to kind of understand the structure there too. So, but Emma has a few other, another question more on like other ways for the group to be connected. So go ahead, Emma, there.
Yeah, so like Ryan said, we're trying to move towards general support, but with that, I think we're really thinking it's important to feel connected to the organization and really kind of do a little bit more hands-on work that we haven't necessarily gotten to do in the past. So I guess my question is there any opportunities for us to get more involved with your organization while we're partnered with you, so that I know in the past that when we've done volunteer opportunities, it's helped the people within our organization really get connected so that when they are asking for donations, it's a little bit easier.
You're muted, Julie's. There you go.
I would love to answer that. So as we go throughout the year, I've been putting on events, and we hope that people come to help volunteer with our communities of faith, volunteer with our Eco Ambassadors program. So I would love to see that connection happening. As we go on with the USDA grant, I'm sure there will be opportunities to support houses of worship with their projects, if that's what you have in mind, or even to attend events that houses of worship or Faith in Place is hosting. That would be amazing.
And we do a lot of online events, so having participation in those would be great. And my first thought was that we try to help our high school folks, kind of understand what the future is beyond graduation, and meeting actual college students and having them talk about how they got to college, how they decided what to major. I mean, just those sorts of skills would be a great asset for the youth program, and a way for your folks to connect with the people that are growing up to be the next leaders, but pretty close to you.
A couple of things that come in mind for me. We have two large annual events. One of them is called the Green Team Summit that happens every year in the fall. We just had it on October the 8th. That's a 4-day event. There is a hybrid kind of day one keynote speaker event. Duke University had their own watch party. So Valpo could do that. We could, help support something like that on campus if you wanted to do that that'd be next year. We also have the Double Dutch Festival. We've done that 3 years now, and it's grown every year. It's on the south side of Chicago. I'm imagining from Valpo that might be like, was it an hour drive? Maybe less, but that's been really exciting. I know it's kind of this urban, kind of old school thing, and there's a lot of clubs actually in the Chicago area that all gather together, and there's competitions and demos.
We're talking jump ropes, right?
We're talking jump rope. Yeah.
Ooh,
You
jump
don't have
ropes.
to be a professional.
But there's a lot of volunteer needs, and it's just exciting too. Right? I mean, there's not a lot of Double Dutch Fests out there. We're, bringing that back. Our sustainable food and land use senior coordinator is really a passion project of hers that it took off. Had a small grant 3 years ago and just been building. And so the 4th annual will be next summer.
Nice.
That could be a lot of fun.
Great.
Great, thank you. To give you a little bit of insight as to how our process works, me and Ryan and then the rest of our SALT staff are kind of doing more of the behind the scenes work, but we do have a larger group, about 20 students, I would say, that will get a say in who we ultimately fundraise for this coming spring semester. So we'd like to kind of show them a little pitch of each organization to give them a better idea of what each organization is about. And that's kind of why we're recording these Zoom calls. So if you guys could give us a 1 minute, maybe 2 minute pitch to just give them a general idea that we can show them, that we can clip out of this meeting, that would be really great.
Yeah, and as I said, we'll give them the opportunity to listen to the whole thing, but knowing college students and their schedule, they probably won't do that. We'll send them that and the annual report too, but the clip is kind of what we're going to share at the meeting and discuss a little more, and they can ask us questions from this conversation too.
Mhm.
Cindy, you've been with Faith and Place the longest of all 4 of us. Would you be willing to do that? Give the pitch?
Sure.
Did I put you on the
Sure.
spot there wrongly, or?
Let me think. Minute pitches. Okay.
It can be longer than a minute.
It doesn't have to be exactly that.
Okay. Okay. Boy, what I really want to do is send you a video with it. Has some really great music and subtitles and teenagers dancing, stuff like that.
I could be jumping rope in the background.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. Okay. Faith in Place is an organization whose mission is to help people of all faiths, of many diverse faiths and spiritualities, become leaders in advancing environmental and racial justice. And we do that by connecting them, educating, and advocating with them to build healthier communities. Healthier communities can take many forms, but we know that in the environment, I think it was John Muir that said, when you go into nature and pull a thread, you find that everything is connected. And it truly is, it's absolutely true that in the environment, everything is connected and we are all connected to one another. So whether we are working on energy projects, helping to reduce our energy use or to transition to clean energy, whether we're planting a garden to address needs in an area where food scarcity or food access is an issue, and helping a food pantry provide clean, local, healthy food to their clients, whether we're working with the community to reduce basement flooding and by putting rain barrels around, or building a rain garden, or advocating at the state capitol, or working with young people who are truly the leaders of today. no matter what we're doing in Faith in Place, when we're working with communities of faith, it's all connected to the idea that we are building something together, building a healthier earth for ourselves and for other creatures, and helping one another become the beloved creation that we all envision.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Good job, Cindy.
I have a question for Jalissa. Do you know a rough estimate of how many churches you're working with in like the Northwest Indiana area currently?
Oh man, that is a really good question because we keep track of all of that. So from where I started, I think we had a network of a few houses of worship in the Northwest Indiana region, but we've built that few into, I think, about 12 or 14 now. So, and we're still working on getting a few more from East Chicago and as well as Fort Wayne and cities in between South Bend and, oh man, there are a few, but I think we're at maybe 14. I'm going to leave it at 14 because that's what it was when I left.
All right. Do you know, like, is there anything that they're specifically focused on right now, or?
Yeah, so we have houses of worship in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're working towards energy conservation. So they're connected to our TFC program, or they're working on getting connected to our TFC program that we recently revamped. The goal of that program is within 3 years to decrease their current energy usage down to 25% of that. Whether that is working to get solar panels installed with other funding opportunities outside of Faith in Place, or if it is working towards changing their energy usage habits. Another one of our green teams is working in the focusing on sustainable food and land use and creating a community garden to address food insecurity in the region. We also have St. John UCC, which is in Michigan City, Indiana, working to install solar panels. So they're very energy focused. Let me think about another one. There are a few of them. I recently was on vacation, so I might have to buffer back into things. But
Be real, Julie, so you're on vacation right now.
I'm still on vacation, but I'm buffering into things right now, but I know it's very diverse. Some of our houses of worship are intertwined into our Eco Ambassadors program. They host that during our summers. Another house of worship that we work with is very focused on advocacy work, and that's one of our houses of worship in Fort Wayne, Indiana. They've been trying to get more involved in Renewable Energy Day and also sharing about IRA benefits. And we connect with our policy coordinator on subjects like that to make sure folks have enough updated information as things change within our legislature. But I'm going to pause there because my dogs are crazy.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say something really briefly. We don't really have a corporate office where we all gather. So we have quarterly meetings. And the first one I went to was in Gary. And as part of that, we visited one of Jaleesa's houses of worship called Progressive Community Church. And I think that's what she was referring to when she said they were involved in the Sustainable Food and Land Use Program. And it was a very robust, Gary, Indiana, a few lots that are now full of goats and chickens and beehives and hoop houses and raised beds and the whole gambit. So I thought that was really cool to see in Gary.
Just following up on the green teams real quick. I was trying to look on the site, but what does it take if if a house of worship wants to start a green team? I see there's an application process, but what does it look like for that process to go through and start one?
Yeah, so one thing we like to say is we start right where people are. We connect with you just how you are and where you are. So our model is that folks have at least 3 people within their house of worship. They have organized, structured leadership, meaning that there is a green team chair. And then there are sub members of that green team that can continue the work to happen. And they meet at least once a month. We see that not a lot of work happens if you're not meeting at least once a month. But to keep the progress going, those are three things we look for, but not every green team has all of those working at the same time. And then sometimes things happen within that structured leadership. But with a green team coach, I check in with them twice a month, sometimes more than that, often more than that, to see the progress that's happening within their projects. And make sure if they have any resources or anything that they're stuck on, that I have Faith in Place staff, folks like Cindy, to help us out, and also just the experience in knowing how to move past certain issues within those green teams. But just to sum it up, 3 members or more, structured leadership with a green team chair, and meeting once a month.
Okay, thank you. Emma, do you have anything else, or
No, I don't think so.
do you all have any questions for us?
What are the next steps?
So, Emma, you can explain what we're doing with the group and timeline for
Yeah.
that.
So we'll be meeting on this coming Monday, so December 4th, I believe. And we'll be voting on between the 3 that we've been interviewing throughout the past 2 weeks. And then we'll hopefully have our decision by Monday night, and we'll let you know probably by sometime next week, by the end of the week, with our decision. And then after that, we can move forward with further steps.
Yeah, because after that,
Great.
once the group decides, we'll kind of figure out like what the campaign, how they want to structure that a little bit. Next week's our last meeting before break as far as students are here, but when we get back, it would be helping them learn more about the organization, probably connecting them with a few people, maybe it's visiting one of these sites if we choose you, but just understanding that more so then they can advocate for who you are too and do that effectively.
That's great. I have a question around, I know you're changing the model a bit, but if you could just speak a little bit to like last year's campaign, what would that look like?
Yeah, so last year we worked with an organization based out of Gary, I would say, but it was a former student from Valpo who was running it. It was called
Community Change Center is what it's called.
Community Change Center, thank you. And they helped formerly incarcerated men re-enter in society. So we helped fund, in a couple years past, we had funded them before and helped fund their the re-entry home that the men were living in. And then this past year, we helped fund a housing manager that would live in, who was one of the formerly incarcerated men. And then he lived in, helped as like a mentor with the men who were living in there, and then ultimately paid him to be able to sustain the house. And then the hope was that after this year, we had enough funding to pay him for the year, and after that, they would get more funding from other places. And the men would be able to start paying to live in the home. So ultimately being able to pay the housing manager. So really kickstarting them was our goal last year.
Yeah, and then
Thank you for sharing that. That's great.
yeah, a couple years past, they helped raise funds for a new roof on a women's shelter in town here. And then if we looked further back, there were some more international type programs that they were doing project based. Candidly, since COVID, the group has gotten a little more, little smaller. And there used to be a commitment to a project and raising $25,000 for that project. With the smaller group, we haven't always met that goal. So I was trying to encourage them to move away from like putting the work on a nonprofit to create a project-based grant application and then not raising all the funds, but moving more towards just supporting on general support and trust-based type philanthropy. So we've been working towards that structure and seeing what that can look like this year.
And I'm also curious, when you're raising those funds, what kind of sources are you looking to do, and what activities are you doing to raise them?
Yeah, so we really look into the community of Valpo, and we focus in on that quite a bit. We host a 5K color run every year, and that tends to be our largest fundraiser here on campus. We also in the past have worked with local companies like Downtown Valpo who have been supporters. And another main one is just doing cold calls from people who we have a list of, family members, friends, different groups, that churches that would be willing to help fund our campaign. So what we've done in the past, we do a lot of letter writing, things like that. We've also done things like within campus to get students more involved. We've done pancake dinners. In the past, we've done like a tug of war between different staff that you could put money on. That was pretty successful. And then we do also a lot of tabling just to raise awareness and advocacy for the organization and just making people aware of the issues that we're supporting.
Yeah, last year the group pulled a panel together, had some individuals who had gone through the community change center to talk about like reentry after incarceration. So there's always something like that, trying to do some of the education too, knowing that from the student perspective, they might not have money now, but planting seeds about the importance of these causes, just kind of what you all are doing with
I
representing.
love all this.
Yeah, so doing all that
That's
as well. And
fantastic.
we do have a base of people who give regularly just because they love that students have this opportunity. So we reach out to them and the students have the opportunity. So it's not exactly a cold call because they know what the group does, and just giving the students the practice of doing that fundraising too. So there's a common base of that as well. Any other questions?
I'm good.
I do have a question. What are some of the community connections that you all hope to see come from the organizations that get granting?
Yeah, ultimately, I think our main goal is to really just broaden our sense of community and really get involved with issues in our area that we live in. I mean, it's really important to know the issues that are going on. And I feel like the WRC we were trying to move it a little bit more locally these past couple years instead of doing more global issues, just because we feel it's really important that the area we live in is a safe and healthy environment, and the people who live here are helped when they need it. So that's kind of our goal, is to really get to know some other organizations in our area and move towards building those connections so that we can continue, even though we're not necessarily fundraising for them this year, we can still stay connected and see progress and things like that.
Yeah, and as someone who focuses on student philanthropy in general, my goal is really just to help students understand the nonprofit sector, all the ways that they can be engaged, and using our region here to understand that, but they're not all going to stay here in that region. So how do they do that when they move? How do they correctly engage with a community when there's things already happening, and not assuming that they know all the answers, but understanding what's happening and engage in that way too. So just trying to foster that awareness and connection too.
Thanks
It'd
so
be
much.
super cool if we got more green teams in Valpo.
Yeah. I was thinking about the church that I'm at. I'd have to think if there's
Yeah.
other, but yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So if you
I
guys
know
don't have,
outreach coordinator.
yeah, if you all don't have any other questions right now, though, I think we're good and we'll be in contact. Emma will be in contact with you next week once we figure out what the decision is by the group.
Sounds
Thank
good.
you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much, you all.
Thanks so
Thanks for
much.
this time.
Thank you. It was great
Appreciate it.
learning more about the organization.
Thank you. Bye.